passion, experience, leadership, excellence, ethics, integrity. Dr. Rosanna Pittella is the rare communicator that powerfully delivers strong messages and strategic methodologies to global audiences. She grabs their attention, stimulates their minds, triggers meaningful dialogue, and creates for them a powerful atmosphere of cooperation, collaboration that leads to measurable progress. Imagine for a moment what an impact that will make in your team, your organization, your corporation, your world. Leadership is the rare quality of some intentional individuals to inspire cooperation, collaboration, and consultation, and to maximize productivity and excellence in everyone within their reach. Dr. Rosanna Pittella. Leaders serve. Gandhi.
The first thing I want to talk to you about is leadership. Not the kind that you usually hear about where there's 5 quick ways to be a leader or 3 super tips to be a leader. I'm talking about true leadership. I'm talking about the kind that you don't get with your title because you just got a promotion and now suddenly you're a leader. Come on, guys. Since when did ever anyone become a leader because they got a title? So what we're going to really talk about today, and I have a lot of things that we need to discuss, but what we're really going to talk about is what is the essence of true leadership. Think about someone in your lifetime that you felt was a leader. Probably modeled really good behavior, probably had really good ethics and showed integrity, probably was the same person whether they were talking to a neighbor or an executive director. Now, if you've never met a person like that, then you've never met a true leader because that's what they are. So the essence of a true leader then would be their integrity, would be their ethics. It's often their education, although it doesn't have to be formal education. It could be their life that has educated them to that point. But most important part of a leader is that they influence everyone around them. Those who report to them, their peers, and those who they report to, not to mention all of the people that they serve through their organization in a positive way. They bring out the best in everyone around them. That's true leadership.
Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. George Santayana, 1863 to 1952.
Let's talk about education. Okay, we all know that there's all sorts of tuition reimbursement at all of our companies and at a lot of universities because degrees are great. It's great to have a degree, it looks good on your resume, maybe you'll learn something during the process. Fantastic, I have several myself. But the truth is education really about the degrees? Do we really think that someone who has a bunch of letters after their name necessarily knows more than we do about everything in the world? Probably not. So what would be the point then? Why does education have value? Well, if you think about it, all the ways that we live, all the things that we know, and if we're smart, we've learned about all the mistakes that were made before us, all of that culminates in every decision that we make and everything we do. Uneducated people usually have uneducated children. That's a problem. We like to think that one generation leaves the next generation in better shape than itself, but if you look at the history, that's actually not true. We have to break that barrier for people. So when you think about children in poverty-stricken areas, you have to think about the fact that without an education, there is no step up for them. They need to have that. Same deal in a corporate structure or an association. If the binder for you, if your limitation is a degree, you need to think about the value of that education for you. Most importantly, human beings educate each other. Whether you mean to or not, whatever you do is an example that you set for others. So all you managers out there, you remember that. Every time you make a decision, every time you kind of break a rule or kind of fudge around something that you know you're not supposed to, all of your subordinates are watching you. And when they do the same thing, remember whose fault it was for setting that example.
If you have 2 equally likely solutions to a problem, choose the simplest. Franciscan Friar William of Ockham, 1285 to 1349.
So I'd like to point point something out about presentations. I think I've been at probably 10,000 presentations. My own, ones done by academics, and also a ton of business people. And I have to tell you, maybe 1%, maybe not even that, but let's say 1% of them really taught me something, really made me stand up and listen, really left me with something new at the end of the presentation. Why? Think about it. How many of you sit on a conference call and multitask, right? How many of you sit in a lecture and read something like you don't think we notice, but you've got a book inside your binder? We know that that happens, and the reason that it happens is because the speaker really isn't caring about what he or she is saying in the first place. The thing that gets people's audience's attention is passion. Think about the people who will go to any extent to get your attention. Steve Jobs, rest in peace, was one of those people who could catch your attention and keep it, but even he admitted that he could only do it for 10 minutes. The average human being pretty much zonks out after 10 minutes unless you do something spectacular. Take a look back at his old presentations for Apple. At the 10-minute point, suddenly he had a screen show. Suddenly he had slides. Suddenly he had fireworks. And that's because he was trying to break that 10-minute barrier. You guys have to think about the fact that if the audience is not tuned into you, if it's not paying attention, it's learning nothing, and whatever point you were trying to make is lost.
Education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make man a more clever devil. C.S. Lewis, 1898 to 1963.
Does anybody even use the word integrity anymore? Seriously, when you think about that, does anything come to mind? Most people, when asked about that, will say, oh yeah, my dad or my grandfather or my great-grandfather, they had integrity. It's like an old-fashioned idea. Only people from like centuries ago had it. Folks, the reason the world is the mess that it's in is because so many people don't even realize that integrity is a requirement for really good, productive, and ethical adults. So what does it mean? Do you even know? Have you looked it up lately? Most times it's just because somebody's playing Scrabble. So let me remind you, integrity is about the integration of one's entire personality. So what does that mean? It means that if you have a certain way of being, if you have certain rules that you live by, you always have them. You have integrity, whether or not you're in front of an executive director, or you're looking for a new job, or you're flirting with your friend's wife. Whatever it is that you're doing, you're supposed to be that whole person, an integrated person, all the time. When you think about the fact that we talk about, and like it's a good thing, having different personas, you know, we have a persona for work and a persona for home and a persona when we're with our kids, and we act like that's a good thing. The truth is, those are masks, those are false faces. And if you teach your children to have a false face in different circumstances, guess what? They're going to have one with you.
Bring Dr. Pittella to your site, your conference, your event, your team building exercise, or your brainstorming session to share her experience, knowledge, passion, and energy, and trigger the positive changes you need most. Her contagious energy, sparkling intellect, and engaging interactive style will inspire, educate, and intrigue.